Hey Collective, it's Al coming to you with a video that was promised in yesterday's post when I'd been talking about a subplot that I needed to do a separate video for related to the topic of divine unions and specifically the twin flame journey that kind of came about while I was in the middle of a very beautiful, cathartic, uplifting, lightening of the heart experience that we had talked about in the last video when I woke up in a garden and I realized that there were spiritual beings who were blossoming into full bloom and that they were coming into contact with their divine counterparts and how that might play out. But as I had mentioned in the video, something caught my eye off to the periphery of what I was looking at, that I needed to separate from the beauty of that, separating the grace from the severity of what I'm about to say, relating to what caught my eye. But in order for this to happen, I'm going to just say this. There's no written form to this. This is literally going to be on a need-to-know basis. And if you find this, then you need to know what this was. But to set it up, I have to explain how it came about in a way that you all will realize the authenticity to what I'm saying. Okay. So as you guys remember, I was in the middle of trying to ground the energy of what I had seen in the dreams in a way that made sense both in a written format that could stand alone and then a video that would then go into the details for a different collective, speaking to two different perspectives at once. And I was in the process at home of sitting at this particular table, my kitchen table, and thinking about how to ground that energy and what was going to go into the written and what was going into the video. So as I'm doing that, I'm kind of in my own headspace, right? Like off in the distance in the cloud. And I'm holding the images of what I had seen in the dream steadfast in my mental eye, right? And I'm staring at it. And randomly, as I'm trying to pick and choose what I'm looking at, I suddenly get a random question that comes into my mind's eye, which was pretty simple. It was suddenly someone had asked me how I felt about the possibility of partnering with a specific person, and they said the name of the person. And it came out of such left field that even though I'm still holding the vision in my head, I'm now engaging in the train of thought of where that might be coming from and what my apprehension was surrounding the topic. And essentially what it felt like was a familiar voice that is not my crew, but that is someone else's crew that I may be familiar with somehow in the ethers, was asking and kind of gauging my reaction to the possibility of speaking to someone privately about something else. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but they mentioned this person's name. And I said, well, actually, I have no issues with this particular person. I actually hold them in very high regard. And then they followed up with, but there was a moment in time where you guys, where it seems like there was miscommunication or whatnot, and that your guides, my guides, had specifically said that I may not be open to the communication because at some point my feelings had gotten hurt. Okay. So without going into the details of who this person is, during my ascension process, I was thrown to the wolves in many different regards. When you think about someone who's a very spiritual being, a very naive and innocent person, a lot of people don't like that type of energy. And I went through a period where regardless of whether it was in the physical form or whether it was in the etheric form or in the spiritual realms, I always had to watch my back. And I felt very vulnerable. And in the wilderness experience, I started to seek out different spiritual guides and people that spoke my language I felt a kinship to. And I came across this particular individual person. But the more I watched the content, the more a specific reference to an insecurity that I had kept coming up out of the mouth of this person, and I couldn't quite understand if the intention was towards me or if it was just being picked up from the ethers because of all of the pressure that I was under, and kind of how that was the one thing that people in the spiritual world that didn't like me or in the physical world, like there was always something that there was like spiritual attacks that I was constantly under. And he happened to be picking up possibly on that dialogue and did not know that I was actually in the audience watching him, looking for direction. And so in the moment, because I was so vulnerable, my feelings got hurt. And I stopped watching this person. And I kind of stepped away from that type of direction. And I went on my own path because I needed to find my own sense of community and my own tribe. And I felt some kind of way about it. So when they brought it back up to the forefront of my mind, I had already crossed paths physically with this person and had found him to be the complete opposite of what I thought he was. Okay. So when the name came back in, of course I would be completely open to the idea of talking to this person because I really hold them in high regard. But I can't speak to the intention of what the person was saying and why it kept coming up and why that was the same example every time I tuned in. Okay. So as I'm having this conversation, remember I'm still holding in my mind's eye the plants, right? And I'm looking at the garden that we're in. And specifically as I'm talking about this individual, my attention begins to be pulled to my left. And to my left, I'm starting to see that there, obviously in the nursery, is another stalk, another seed that has bloomed that is directly next to me. And I started to kind of wonder if the question was coming from something related to that, right? Not assuming that I'm ever going to actually know this person or work with them, but I was trying to rationalize why the question had suddenly popped into my mind and how best to diplomatically answer it authentically and honestly, right? Because I have no ill will toward this person, even if the person was throwing shade. I don't think he was, but if he was, it doesn't bother me. There's no wounding, there's no shade, there's no judgment. I was just like, it is what it is. But if the person wants to talk to me, I'm absolutely open to it. I feel like he's like a brother, blah, blah, blah. I just don't know him outside of the spiritual context of being part of this class at this time in the academy. And as I'm saying this, the word partnership kept coming up as in business or whatnot. And so I was just very clear in the train of thought. I'm like, just make sure that the person has been vetted by my team, because at the end of the day, any trickery, fuckery, and like that, I'm not putting up with, blah, blah, blah. But nothing animosity. It was just like a logical, analytical, non-emotional response to it. But I said the word partnership. And the moment that I said the word partnership, out of the periphery of my right eye, I started to see a flash within the frame of the image that I was looking at of the garden. And it looked like this. And it reminded me of an answering machine where it's telling you that you have a message. So as I'm talking about the partnership, I finally realized that, again, I was working on trying to ground the energy of divine unions and stuff like that. And I understood the correlation between partnership and that. I wasn't saying that that was with this person, but it was kind of grounding its energy more clearly into my head. And I was starting to realize what was going to be in the written form, which would just be about the garden, and then what would be more speaking to the divine unions and partnerships in general in the video form. So it actually helped me ground the energy by thinking of something else. But as I looked at the word divine union, specifically twin flame, my third eye, and this is for you spiritualists, if you guys are not spiritual, this is not your message, but my third eye focused in on the message, what that blinking light was. And I got a download in the moment that made me, as a divine masculine feminine energy, swoop in like an eagle upon the topic. And here's what it was. In the conversation that I was having with myself, for whatever reason, the name that had been popped up, in it was the topic of partnership and stuff like that, and it led me to the conversation of twin flame. And as I zoomed into the light, what I realized is that it actually had to do with twin flames and the toxicity that comes when one of the twin flames does not do the work required to meet the person at the vibration that they are. And in the moment that epiphany came into my eye, I kind of got a little agitated that something so beautiful was being tainted, and I focused even more into what I was seeing. And it goes a little bit like this. There is a divine feminine out there, one of you, I don't know if you're going to be seeing this right now or when it's time you'll see it, who has made it to the gate, has made it to her reward season, and is about to receive all the blessings due unto her for a job well done, and it is owed to her. But she was attached to someone who suddenly, in seeing her achievements, becomes cognizant and says that he saw the light now. Oh, this is my partner. And suddenly now wants her to uphold the contract after making it very clear that this particular masculine did not want her. And the bitch in me came up. And so I'm sitting here minding my own business. This is now on my desk. I'm looking at the situation and I'm going, wait a minute. So are we saying that because he saw the light as she approaches her reward season, that his sense of entitlement is now saying that he deserves half of what she's got just because they signed a contract before they made it to the earthly plane? He didn't obviously do the work, and in fact has gone out of his way to purposely talk about her and to insinuate things to her and all of this stuff. And now that she's about to be crowned, if you will, he suddenly sees the light and now threw a hissy fit because she decided that she did not want him. Now, as I'm looking at the situation, I'm wondering where the hell this is coming from because it's not my storyline. But I immediately saw the injustice behind the situation, and it propelled me to actually physically make a note that today, no matter how hot it is, no matter what's going on, I'm going to speak to this type of mentality directly. Okay. So, a divine union in twin flame, its intention is to be unbelievably beautiful. It is the reconnection of the divine masculine great architect finding Sophia, the divine feminine energy, and coming into union voluntarily because they are the same vibration and that they are matching each other and both have something to bring to the table that turns the yin yang wheel and creates something absolutely amazing on behalf of the energies that they are representing. And they leave a legacy that is phenomenal in right alignment. This situation is the opposite of that. And so to the masculine in the story, this is where I step right directly in front of you and I explain something. I get that you now see the light, but you can't make her turn around and reconsider, because what finally got her to the gate was her letting you go. Not because she wanted to, but because you went out of your way to be mean to her. You purposely left this particular, this is not for all divine feminines. This is not for all of you. This is for a specific group of people. You purposely turned your back on her, knowing that the great architect had asked you to make sure that you took care of her at a certain point along the journey. But you didn't like what she represented. I don't know, you didn't like the way she looked. I don't know if you didn't think she had enough money. I don't know what the problem was. I don't know if she triggered insecurities. Were you jealous? I don't know what the hell it was. But you left her. And in the process of you leaving her, what I could not ignore was, had she accrued more damages and more scars because of that neglect, and did that then make the contract null and void in my head? Because the impression I was getting and being pulled into this scenario was that she was now feeling the pressure to reconsider her decision to move along. Not because she wanted to, but because she couldn't get the taste out of her mouth, because he couldn't stop sending her signals that the universe was trying to make him choose her. To the point where I could see an image of his guides or whoever it was trying to convince this masculine to look at her. That is not a divine masculine and a divine feminine union. That is not what this is supposed to be. This is some toxic bullshit, right? This is not a divine union. This becomes a karmic situation. Yes, you may have signed a contract to be with them, but you did not uphold your end of the bargain. So what I want you as the masculine, whoever this is, if this is you, and no matter how triggered you get at me, or if you're the divine feminine, you're relating to this, I want you guys to think of what I saw, which was this feminine gets to the gate not only carrying her own cross to bear, but also carrying his fucking cross to bear. And then the children's crosses to bear, whether they are in the future or should have come from the dynamic or actually came from the dynamic. She's carrying all of the weight uphill by herself. She gets to the gate. He's not there. He left her for dead. Now he wants her attention. No, abso-fucking-lutely not. I don't care how mad you get. Because then as I'm looking at the situation, I'm being further brought into this dialogue, and I'm being asked my opinion of the situation. I'm looking at it, and I realize that what's happening is that they think that because of who he is, what he was born into, that this would be beneficial to the overall outcome of the situation, neglecting her, making it almost like because he changes his mind, she has to change her mind. And immediately the great architect in my ear says that is not how this works. If he didn't make the cut, she is not obligated to be held back by his inability to, quote unquote, man up. She absolutely still has the possibility to go forth and be successful on her mission because she's at the gate. She's getting the rewards. Whether you're male or female, the divine feminine is in the rise. She is the key. So if she makes it to the gate, then I'm going to give her real twin flame. I'm going to recast that in order to ensure that she does not suffer anymore. But his emotional reaction was what pissed me off, because the divine feminine energy at the moment is being told, get your head out of your emotions. You need to be more analytical about it. You need to make sure that before you say completely notice, like almost making it almost like a bully thing, where like she has to suddenly like take all her emotions out of it in order to see more clearly. Yet the only reason we're having this conversation is because he has an emotional outburst of entitlement and spoiled rotten behavior. And it lands on my desk, who I'm innocently minding my own fucking business at home. And suddenly I'm having this gorgeous epiphany about all of this beauty and love and light and what the divine union is supposed to look like. And here comes this fool over here demanding our attention because he feels jaded somehow because he didn't know who she was. And you claim to know that you are in a divine partnership with her. You snooze, you lose, dude. You snooze and you fucking lose. And I was left literally in my headspace. I'm left looking at the heavens and going, what are we teaching our daughters? The entirety of the previous video was about the ascension of Gaia and the rise of the divine feminine energy. And what I'm looking at is nothing but a bunch of toxic behavior from people who aren't even going, who want to gain access to something that they can't even rise to the occasion to meet. I'm not judging this person. I'm sure that he has his reasons for leaving her out in the cold. That's absolutely fine. But you're not going to sit there and then call on her reward season because you didn't do your part of the deal. You left her high and dry. And you could have XYZ reasons. But the fact that you had to be convinced, because the wording that was used is that he's finally caving in. And that's what they said to the divine feminine. And I'm listening to this conversation. I go, what the fuck do you mean he's caving in? That means that you are pressuring him to choose her. That is not what a twin flame is. That is not a divine union. Because no matter what happens now, from the foundational level, she's going to know that he basically only did it because he was forced to do it. And I was outraged. I was upset. And I was like, abso-fucking-lutely not. Nope, sorry, I don't care if this is none of my damn business. You brought it to me, I'm going to tell you what I think. Abso-fucking-lutely not. There's no fucking way. It takes a lot to piss me off these days, but I'm going to tell you right now, that's not how that's going to work out. You're going to tell me that after her carrying all the burdens, all he had to do in this scenario was be there to be the connecting piece that got her to a little bit more of stability. But instead, for whatever reason, he turned his back and refused to hear the direct orders from the great architect, who's basically saying, you signed this contract. And not only that, you know this soul. This is your twin soul. You have been with this person over and over again. And you're so stuck in your ego and your pride and your arrogance that you're going to snooze, you're going to lose. Because there's a big difference between divine timing and finally seeing the light naturally without outright being mean to the other person and talking shit and calling names and stuff like that and sending energetic attacks. I mean, this dude did everything short of like basically sneering at her, like, oh my God, you're not worth it. And I'm looking at him, the energy signature of him, and I'm going, well, you can't see shit, dude. That divine feminine is phenomenal. You're just average. And now you're mad because you're not getting the rewards that you think are owed on to you because of some sort of entitlement bullshit, because you think that because you signed a contract before you came to earthly plane, before you hit the playground, that things can't change and that has to be upheld. And the reality is that's not how that fucking works. If both people arrive to the foundational level at the school and the academy and are in the same grade, and they are meant to work together, then they are supposed to keep track and pace with each other. If someone decides to fall behind for whatever egoish, motivational bullshit thing, and sometimes even for real reasons, like fear or anger or whatever that they're feeling they're having to work with, those are all valid. But this was straight ego, arrogance, and entitlement. Okay. So just because you guys hit the playing field at the same time, Remember, the contract specifically stated that you would both have to meet at the same vibration, at the same fucking frequency when you came together, and if not, it would not go. That literally should say to this dude, whoever you are, that you didn't make the cut. Whatever the block was too big for you this lifetime. But that doesn't mean that we hold, as a peer group, we allow the divine feminine to be held back. She just gets a new partner. And you don't have any right to that. There is a reason we in the collective are witnessing such temper tantrums from masculines right now. It's because the divine feminine is standing in her power. And whether you like it or not, and whether that triggers you, at the end of the day, did she do the work that you couldn't do? And is the only reason you're in the halls of the karmic courts because she did do it. Right? Because now she's standing there and she goes, I don't want to be forced into something that I know is not real. He doesn't want me. He's made it more than clear. He had to be coached to even consider me. And meanwhile, I've been nothing but sweet to this person. I've sent them love. I've sent them unconditional behavior. And then now that I'm where I'm at, I finally just realized, like, what does that say about my worth if I suddenly pivot and bow to him? I don't care who the fuck he is spiritually. I don't care who the fuck he is in the world. What does that say? What is the message we're sending to the divine feminines? Right? It's a toxic thing that is not coming through, and we're starting to have to face it head on. Right? Because I'm sitting here minding my own business, thinking about the beauty of my coming into union, hopefully with my partner somewhere down the line. And I know he's there because he's in the castle with me when I'm having the epiphany and all those that experience. And here, this other person is throwing a bitch fit because he didn't get to go in. But you didn't want to. A twin flame is nothing to sneeze at. It's not a karmic situation. It shouldn't be something that teaches her. Can you imagine how hurtful that is? When I was going through my ascension, when I was going through, because I'm still ascending, I'm always a student for the rest of life probably. But when I was going through my ascension, I'm going to tell you something right now. They did not want me. Either because I was gay, or because I was crude, or because I didn't bow down to anybody. I was a wild card, and some of the elders and masters did not like me. And they went out of their way to make it known to me. And we have made peace since that, because it took the Queen of Cups that I am into the Queen of fucking Wands. And now I stand here with the wand, and I'm telling you right now, this shit doesn't work. So to the elders and masters' benefit, they made me stronger. Great. But in a divine union coupling, you want to tell me that it doesn't hurt her feelings to know that the man that she was destined to be with said no. And not just no, hell no. And now he wants her. Oh, okay, well, that's really fucking convenient. We have to start embracing each other much more lovingly and understanding that this is supposed to uplift us. It's not supposed to hurt us. Yes, there are lessons and karmic things that we must pass, but where we're going requires a balancing of the energies in love and light. And regardless of whether you are masculine or feminine, obviously in this case it was a divine feminine. But it also could be a divine masculine, the same thing. If a divine masculine is carrying the entirety of the situation while someone else in the background not doing anything, knowing that at any point they can just jump ahead and cut ahead because they're associated with them contractually, then what's the motivation? Well, surprise, surprise, bitch, you ain't going either. Right? One of the romantic things about the idea of this, of the twin flame, is two people matching not only vibration, but pathways, strength, character, warriorship, arriving at the gates together, hand in hand, wanting to be with each other because they saw each other at the right time. That is the perfect idea of what that should be. This behavior right here that caught my eye and that made me zone in so quickly to get the entire download of the situation was the opposite of that. It's a byproduct of not showing up correct, of coming incorrectly towards the other. And what bothered me the most about it was the very next day, because remember, this is now 2 days later when I'm recording this, since that all went down. Yesterday, I go out to see my favorite guy in the entire world. He's a bartender. I go and hang out. I have like 3 or 4 beers with him, and then I go home. That's the extent of my party days. That's the worst I've ever done. So I go, I'm sitting there, and guess what? A gorgeous woman sits right fucking next to me. And we have an incredible conversation. Beautiful, beyond beautiful, glowing, the whole nine. In walks her boyfriend. Arrogant, rude, and ignores her the entire time. And he sits, well, she's here right next to me, and he's sitting on the other side of me. And I'm like, I'm too high vibrational for this shit. I'm not involving myself in this. And I lean over and I go, girl, what are you doing? And she looks at me and she goes, I don't. And you can't take someone's free will away. I go, okay. You are absolutely gorgeous, and you can have any man in the world. It is your decision in the end. I left alone. It was rude, dude. Like, I was sitting there, and she's buying all his drinks. She's paying for the meal. He's not paying any attention to her. He's completely rude, and he's more engaged in talking to some random person next to him about something ridiculous. And when she tries to speak to him, he's dismissive of her. And I'm like, is this what we want for our daughters? Because when I looked at him, whatever the attraction was that I saw at the beginning, how beautiful he looked on the outside, could not hide how dark and disgusting I found him to be on the inside. And I'm not a judgy person. And I was like, what are we teaching our daughters? That they should marry well? It reminds me, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me in the moment of when we see somebody who's really notable or famous who beats their wife, and we say things like, well, I mean, at least she's taken care of. It's her decision. Like, okay. At least she has all that money she could, when she leaves him. But meanwhile, she's getting beaten. And you guys know how I feel about abuse towards women, period. I don't tolerate it. It's like anything having to do with children. It pisses me off beyond belief. But I'm sitting there and I'm trying to be respectful of her decisions. But it kind of perfectly mirrored what the outrage was that I had just had in the original post. Remember, last night, I had already posted the video. This is not a byproduct. This just happens to be basically reinforcement to what I was channeling, because I actually met someone that this was true for. It was like a mirror that I had seen through. And somehow, an example of what the toxicity looks like actually sat right next to me. But remember, the video had already been recorded and uploaded before I ever went out last night. You guys can look at the time. The fact that this played out the way it is was exact alignment that I needed to address it. And I needed to address it with the collective in a way that was very clear and concise. Because I was like, is this my lane? Why is this on my desk? Why is this on my desk? And I kept thinking that over and over again. I'm like, why? And I'm like, because this is the opposite of a divine union. And we need to teach our daughters that. Yeah, you want to marry well? Do what these divine feminines do. Build your own empire. These are people that are supposed to be meant to be coming in equally yoked. Okay, she may not have a lot of money. Because again, she was carrying the crosses in the vision I had up the mountain, all of them. Hers, his, and the baby's. So she may have literally been the one who built the kingdom in heaven. And so she may be poor. She may not be at the stature or the status that the masculine is. Because most masculines will ground into the dirt and build their kingdom on the physical plane. And when the unions come together, ideally, they would be heaven and earth coming together. Right? She carries the keys to the heaven, and he carries the keys to the earth, or flip versa, right? Because some females built their kingdom in the ground, and it was the husband who built the spiritual kingdom. Right? But notice the difference. Divine unions come together and do not repel each other necessarily. But if they do repel each other, it's usually because of something different. And let's address it directly for all of us. A divine masculine who is afraid of love is not the same thing as an arrogant prick. This dude is obviously narcissistic. It's all about him. There's no room for her. Why would you think that's a divine union? Bye. But we condition women particularly to settle for things because a lot of women have not been allowed into the higher realms, right? There is an undertone of tone here where women can identify with the idea of being marginalized. But remember what the vision was about. It was the coronation of the divine feminine in Gaia ascending. She's in our face. And so things need to be clarified. And the only reason it came on my desk, finally the epiphany came to me, is because I'm one of the few men who mind if people get pissed off at me. Again, people don't always like me, and that's fucking fine by me. I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here to be a servant to humanity and to try to bring cohesion. But it doesn't mean that I can't see when injustice has happened and I'm just not going to sit there and take it, right? Because this poor girl, not the one necessarily in, but the one in the vision, the one that was the focus of the energy. This poor woman was literally feeling like she was being attacked by the elders because they wanted her to reconsider, but that's not what it was. That's other people within the collective clouding her judgment. They just asked her, are you sure? Because they want to sever the contract. And the only way for her to do it is to be absolutely clear. Yes. Even if she is afraid that they're not going to send her dream love, she needs to be confident enough in that moment. And there were all these voices around her that I could hear saying, you're making a mistake. He's the perfect person for you. He can open all the doors that you need. Yeah, but if he breaks her feet and has to drag her in, then is that really beneficial for her? And that was kind of the overall outrage that was channeled through me. Right? It's this idea that you have to sacrifice your integrity or somehow sacrifice your self-worth in order to accommodate other people's goals and aspirations. And the truth is, that's not how the divine architect works. If you think that, then you need to relook at the entire video that played before. The great architect is blessing the divine feminine at this event. It's his daughter. And that's where we as men need to think from. The great architect loves the divine feminine. No bullshit. I know that in small minds, that's not true, that men don't know. The great architect loves his daughters. And his daughters have absolutely every right to change their mind. Especially when someone is very clear that they had to be carried kicking and screaming to the altar. Why would you ever settle for that? And so by the end of it, I kicked it up to the high courts, and I was like, I know my name is Al, and I know that I'm just a small person in this fucking kingdom. But I'm telling you right now, what are we teaching our daughters? And well, you want to know what I heard back? We just wanted to hear your opinion. You see, there are tests within the academy that sometimes come to you that seem to be blindsiding. And you feel like you are making a mistake by having a response to them. But when something really matters to a greater group of people, especially at this vibration, especially at such a crucial transitional time, where a lot of positive things are about to hit a lot of people that are due onto reward season, they also have to be prepared to know when something's toxic. Right? I know we want to be in divine unions, but there's a big difference between a twin flame journey that is meant to succeed in love and light, and starting it off from the very beginning by dragging one of the two through. That contract should not, and that's what I said to the higher courts, by the time it's all said and done, I was like, those contracts cannot, that won't work. Can you imagine? And so I was left in a situation where, like I said in the previous video, I had to address it in a separate energy because the ideal dream that's manifesting for a lot of us has a shadow. You can't have sometimes one without the other, right? Where there's light, there's shadow. And so if we don't address the shadow aspect of it, the toxic part of it, the part that's manipulative or that's entitled or whatever, that the lower vibrational thing, if we don't reinforce each other to the freedom to turn around and go, I'm not tolerating this. It's nothing personal. You know what I mean? Like, it's not personal. I'm not saying that I want anything bad to happen to this dude, like, at all. I'm let go and let God. You enjoy your journey. You're just not going with her. And that's not saying that he's not going to rise to the occasion, having learned the lesson of having lost her in order to get his next spouse, whoever that is. And there's probably going to be a blessing as well. But you don't sit there and act like a spoiled, rotten little prat and sit there and throw a hissy fit that lands on our desks in the ethers of people who are really spiritual, who are now looking at this person and going, dude, you didn't just show your ass. Like, you literally landed on his desk. And he literally had to stop what he was doing to address it, because he wanted to ensure that the divine feminines out there understood that they are empowered, not disempowered at this time. Now, that doesn't mean go around like telling people no, like being the Queen of Swords, like Missy says, because, you know, a lot of divine feminines have been wooed and scarred by assholes like this, who then may fuck around and miss their opportunity because they're expecting someone to ride in on a white horse, not realizing that they are already themselves the rider on the white horse. Plot twist, as Missy says. Shout out to two specific channelers. Erin Chandler, who has a really beautiful channel, who helped me out a lot, and Missy over at Saltwater Tarot. Shout out to the two ladies. Couldn't be more opposite than each other, but that's neither there. So the divine feminines. This is then another part of the communication. I know that we expect to have a provider and someone who is absolutely going to be a warrior on our behalf and stuff like that. But don't misinterpret that for clout, for money, for title, or for rank. Because you may be the one who carries the baton. He may be the love of your life. Will open doors for you, will take care of you, but you may even be the breadwinner. Don't fuck around missing the opportunity of the right aligned person because you're expecting something specific, because you're neglecting the mirror principle, which is, what if you are the warrior? What if you are the divine kingdom holder? The blessing that is coming to you would not be that asshole. It would be the opposite, right? So if you're a really ballsy chick out there and you are holding it down, yes, you can say no, but say no for the right reasons. For example, I'm going to give you an epiphany that came to me very clearly, and it has to do with the idea of Mars and Venus. Let's say Mars and Venus got together. One of the things that you would know automatically is that Mars is the god of war. He carries a lot of anger and aggression, but he would never aim that at Venus. Venus would chop his fucking balls off. It wouldn't even be a consideration. Notice the difference. He would be so protective that she might have to check him and say, honey, you're being a little overprotective. Don't put me in a cage. Just stand next to me and let's ride or die. Let's go. That's a healthy type of divine power, right? You're going to help heal the world where you're going to need the healer to be protected by the divine masculine. And he's going to show up. But what if the divine masculine is the healer and the divine feminine is the warrior? Don't get stuck in gender. I mean, we keep talking about it. Just because you're a divine feminine doesn't mean that you're not a dude. You just align more with the divine feminine quality. Just like you can be a divine masculine and be a girl. So ground the energy. So to all sides. Look at the warning signs not as warning signs, but be aware of where the dream becomes a nightmare, right? Don't get lost in the pursuit of an idealized expression that is not that person, right? He can't be. And if he's being mean and rude, there's a difference between being shy and being afraid to approach you to actually going out of your way to be mean. He purposely could not stop sending her signals about how disgusted he was by her. And then all of a sudden, she's getting close to what she needs to achieve in order to make it indicate. And now this motherfucker wants to go, oh, I see the light. See this. And I'm sorry if that offends you. But what are we teaching our daughters? At the end of the day, that is so important. You know, a lot of divine feminines are really blessed right now and realizing that they are their own knight on a white horse. And who they're getting now is their kingdom spouse. Someone who identifies them from the get-go and says, somehow, shape, or form, takes all the courage in his body and his fiber to approach her, possibly yes. or has to work through anger triggers, but isn't being directed at her, is just working through his own shadow. That's healthy, right? You're coming in matching each other's frequency. But don't be afraid, whether you're masculine or feminine, to kick it up to the high courts and be like, what? I'm not settling for this. I'm sorry. You know, because I was like, in this scenario, it was hysterical. I'm going to end on this. But I literally was like, okay, let's bring this into the high courts and let me throw my little spin on this. Okay, so everything that you have coming to you as a duo, he wants part of. Okay, but let me start doing some deductions. What were the expenditures and all of the things that she accrued while he was him and hawing and dragging his fucking feet? This is what, 3 years ago you were supposed to meet? You didn't want to do it. They've been working on you for 2-3 years. Okay. What were her bills? What happened to her in that time? Did she get hurt? Are there scars? Is there this? Is there that? Is there this? Is there that? Is there that? Okay, good. All of that is now doubled for her. Oh, you're left with nothing. Whoops, no matter how big, you know what I mean? So be advised that you have the empowerment to at any time ask questions of the higher realms, yes. But be advised that sometimes you're not going to get a response that you like. Right? I get that he has shadow, and I have nothing but love and support. I never wish anybody ill will. But the implication was that he was going to have some, this is in the future, that he's going to throw shade and cause havoc on her life. And I was like, no, he's not. Don't fuck with her. Dude, you snoozed, you lose. You lost this. That doesn't mean you can't get back on the horse yourself and get into right alignment so that you then meet the right person for you. But don't try to hold back the divine feminine who actually made it. They're carrying everyone's fucking crosses. As someone who carries a lot of other people's energy and tries to transmute the energy as best as I can in my own day-to-day life, I'm telling you right now, it's not healthy and it's not fair for someone who is not, that's not their task. That's why I was so specific in the example about what did she accrue and scars and damages that were not due onto her. You're in an academy. When you guys are coming together, you're supposed to be doing coursework together and you're supposed to produce something out, in my opinion. That's how it's supposed to work, ideally. But if you suddenly stall and don't do what you're supposed to do, and she incurs pain, suffering, and stuff that was not due onto this scholastic year, then by the time that you do come in, you cannot meet each other. She's now up here, and this dude is down here. I don't care how spiritual he was. She had to advance because she had to overcome so much more that was never due to her at this particular school level. So now she's like 2 years ahead. And what, we're going to hold her back because this dude finally sees the light? Well, I'm glad you see the light. And your guides are going to help you grow that light. It just won't be with her. Anyway, that's it, guys. I hope this doesn't trigger everybody all at once. But as you can see, I had something to say. It was weighing on my consciousness. There's so much romanticism behind the idea of the twin flame. And it was even part of that beautiful message from yesterday. But that is an actualized expression of what it's meant to be. But when you address that, you also have to do sweets and the sours. And the sours is that it's not going to work for everybody. But that doesn't mean that the divine feminine or divine masculine who does the work does not get their forever kingdom spouse. It just means that they have to be open to not carry the baggage of what just happened from this dude to the next person. Because usually it's like as soon as they decide they're absolutely fucking not, the great architect goes, oh, thank goodness. Here, and like the next week, she meets somebody, and they fall in love, and they're married a year later, whatever. Right? And so energetically, guys, as peers within the class, you can't take someone else's free will away. But if you notice something, you can speak to it in an indirect manner that helps reinforce the healthy idea of women being worth something. And they are worth everything. They are equal in every fucking way. So that's where I want to end it. I hope you guys have a blessed day. If you find this message, I hope it spoke to you in the right tone. If it triggers you, I apologize, but I really don't see how it could, unless you are possibly relating to the guy that I just went after. I didn't go after him. He showed up on my desk. But the point is, I wish everyone in the situation well. It's not even my storyline. But the fact it came to me meant that I needed to say something only because my conscience couldn't be clear unless I actually spoke to it. I wish you guys the best. Bye.